Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Talk with Coach, the podcast where we deep dive into the realm of sales, leadership, personal growth, and entrepreneurship. I'm your host, Becca Goldsberry, an elite sales and leadership coach representing Southwestern Consulting. I am excited to embark on another journey with you guys today. Whether you're a seasoned professional aiming to sharpen your skills or an aspiring leader hungry for knowledge and to grow your company, this podcast is your compass to success. Join me as we explore strategies, tactics, mindset shifts necessary to thrive in a competitive landscape of sales, leadership, and entrepreneurship. Get ready to unlock your potential, seize opportunities, and conquer challenges like never before. So buckle up and let's embark on this transformative voyage together. Welcome back to Talk with Coach. So my guest today is somebody who I just recently met. We are both part of the 2025 Women Thrive Speakers event that's coming up in March of 2025, and I loved it. She reached out to me and she's like, "Hey, I saw you have a podcast. I would love to be on." And so we scheduled time together, had a phenomenal conversation, and I am really excited to get to know Danielle even better today with all of you guys. So something that I absolutely loved when talking with her and preparing for today, her favorite quote is, "What got you here won't get you there." And it's by Marshall Goldsmith. It's one of my favorite quotes, Danielle, because what we've done in our past, if we've been successful in our past, that's not going to always help us be successful in the future. So I love that. As a coach yourself, you know that we may have to be doing things differently moving forward to keep us growing and learning and just being a better version of ourselves. So Danielle Sebastian, who is the founder of WifeCare LLC, is my guest today. And Danielle is an expert on identifying and overcoming trauma in relationships. She is the best-selling author of Resilient Wives, a guide for wives supporting their husbands through childhood trauma recovery. And she has helped hundreds navigate and repair their relationship as they support their partners through trauma recovery. After 9 years of strain in her own marriage and through years of extensive research and development on trauma, relationships, and self-care, Danielle created a signature care framework, and she is sought out to be a speaker, and her thought leadership has been presented to audience of over 2,000. She is happily married now for 14 years and the mother of two. Danielle has dedicated her life to helping partners reconnect and heal together. But most of all, her passion lies in helping partners prioritize their wellness and finding community as they work together in a healthier relationship. Danielle, welcome to Talk with Coach. I'm so excited to have you on today.
Oh, thank you so much. I am so honored to not only be here today, but to also be working with you in our speaking journey moving forward.
Absolutely. So I know you have this amazing bio, but I would love just to hear a little bit more about where you, like your journey, right? Like in your career that led you to what you're currently doing today. I would love for you just to kind of give us more of that background.
Yeah, so I started out as a pharmacist. So 22 years ago, I got my pharmacist degree and I worked up the pharmacy chain, and currently I still have a director position with a healthcare organization using my pharmacy skills. But along the way, I met my dream man about 14 years, so several years into my pharmacy career. I met that dream guy, and I married him on a beach in Kauai. And that really changed the whole trajectory of my passions now.
I love that. Okay, so you basically, what you just said, you married your dream guy and had the dream wedding in Kauai, if I'm catching all of that right.
Correct.
Awesome. Amazing. So I know, you mentioned that your spouse, it sounds like he had trauma in the past, and that's kind of what ignited your passion for helping others going through the same thing. So, can you share with us a little bit about what you do with WifeCare and how you help, you know, partners work through this together?
Yeah, so after we got married, we had a stepdaughter. So I have a stepdaughter, he had a daughter brought into the marriage. And after we had our son, we really started to see some changes in our relationship, things that we just couldn't get past. There was a lot of, it felt like I was constantly walking on eggshells, just never knowing, when I would set something off in my husband by something I would say, and things that normal couples could get through. We just seemed to not be able to get past. It just seemed like no matter just small requests, like, hey, can you help with the dishes tonight? My husband was taking as a personal affront to his character.
Mm.
And so it was a lot of backlash, a lot of blaming, and just terrible cycles of fighting and withdraw that I just couldn't put my finger on. And
Yeah.
it wasn't until we had just really come to this point where we couldn't move on that my husband was able to reveal a terrible history of childhood abuse at the hands of the church. He'd never told anyone. And
Wow.
so he was able to reveal that to me. But I just knew instinctively that this was that piece of the puzzle that I hadn't been able to put my finger on. I thought that this might be, some of the reasons that we were having such difficulty. And what I found with a lot of research was that absolutely the coping mechanisms that childhood trauma survivors develop in order to make it through as a kid, to survive their environment that was very chaotic, can be the very things that cause lots of issues in adult relationships.
Wow. So when after, he shared, his stories and what had happened, what were the next steps? What did you start doing? Because I know you did lots of research, lots of development on trauma, right? You even wrote a book about, how to support. What were your next steps? What did that look like?
I was naive. I'm not going to lie. I thought that now we knew this thing, we would do some counseling, he would get some help and to deal with what had happened to him, and we would be good in a year, maybe two, right?
Yeah.
That is not the case, unfortunately. The healing process is different for everyone, but it is a journey. It's not an endpoint. I did learn that. And I also was, for the other thing I was looking for is other people who'd been through this, that had success stories, community of wives that, we're all going through the same thing. And I could find nothing.
Really?
Nothing. Yes. It's just a startling lack of support for wives and male partners of women survivors as well. Just, it was very, very rare. So that's why I dug into the research, found everything I can. I tried everything. I tried different tools. And after 9 years, I realized I think we've made it. I think we've developed these tools that we can get through anything. We were able to diffuse the triggers. And I knew that even though the triggers would always be there, they lessened definitely over time with the healing process that he did. They were still going to be there, and new triggers would come. So, for example, the triggers that we had with toddlers were way different than the triggers we had when my daughter became a teenager and started driving. And that loss of control, right, and
Yeah.
safety and where she was were an entire different set of triggers, but the tools were the same.
Okay.
And so that's why I wrote my book, and that's why I'm doing what I'm doing today.
All right. So share with us, because I know you created the signature care framework, right? Some of these tools. Would you be able to share a couple of the tools, or maybe I guess the first question is, what do we need to look for as spouses, as loved ones? Because and I know with a background with a master's in social work, people don't just come out and say, I have childhood trauma. I was abused, I was raped, I was this, I was that. Humans do not just come out and just blurp all these things. You're absolutely right. What we do is we internalize it and we take on ourselves, and then it lashes out in ugly things that, I mean, and let's face it, every human, we all have something that we hide, that it is a trigger for us, right? So what are some of the characteristics? What are some of the things that we as loved ones, spouses, friends, parents, children, what do we need to look for, I guess, as the triggers? What are some of the signs?
This is what I wish I would have known,
Okay.
when I got married. And I'm just trying so hard to get this story out, because even if your partner doesn't disclose, but you're seeing some of these behaviors,
Mm-hmm.
knowing that there may be, like you said, everybody's had trauma, has had some sort of trauma in their life, that it
Mm-hmm.
could be related to triggers. There's a different approach you can use, even if you don't know exactly what happened. But the signs that are clearer to me now that I wish I knew then, first and foremost, childhood trauma, if they don't talk about their childhood. And I know that seems obvious, but it really isn't when you really start to get into it. So they say things like, "Oh, my childhood was fine. I don't remember that much about my childhood. Everything was very normal." So not going into a lot of depth about their childhood, sign number one.
Okay, hold that thought. I want everybody to soak that in, because how many friends do we know that have been very vague about the past, right? And things I know, I'm thinking of like myself, things that I was never comfortable with, maybe like for myself, right? Like growing up, for me, it was always my weight. Like, oh, that was fine. Like I tried to slide through it very quickly, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I want everybody to soak in what Danielle just said
Mm-hmm.
is clue number one, the
Clue
vagueness.
number one: if somebody isn't expanding on something that seems very normal, that's a wonder what's going on there.
Mm.
Um, Second one is the pushing away. So obviously, childhood trauma victims were they lost the trust of someone, right? Significant, someone who they trusted and who they should have been able to rely on did terrible things to them. And so they will have a lack of trust, not wanting people to get close because they're worried that they're going to get hurt again. And so this plays out in relationships with this push pull, usually getting close. And just when you think you're getting close, then they pull away, sometimes even sabotaging the relationship. So
Okay.
that push pull, afraid of intimacy. The other thing that you may notice when is a need to control the environment, or the need to control the relationship, the dynamics of the relationship. And
Mm.
what we need to understand as partners in this situation is that it's a need for them to feel safe. They're trying to make themselves feel safe by controlling what they can. It isn't about needing to control the partner, even though that's exactly what it feels like. It feels like, oh my gosh, he's controlling, when we see each other, how close we get, whether or not he spends the night, all those type of things you can take very internally, like there's something wrong with you. It's nothing wrong with you. It's them trying to feel safe.
It's them putting their guard up,
Yep.
right?
Yes.
And controlling the environment so they don't get hurt.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
And then the last one is just what we talked about, this, the lashing out, the blaming when they feel threatened. Because they are hyper alert to danger, their little brains were changed because of the abuse that they experienced. They are constantly looking for danger everywhere, and they're going to see it even when it isn't there. And when they see that as a partner, they see it, something that you say, and they take it as a sign of danger. They will emotionally feel this response and then try and deflect that on the partner.
Wow. Those, all right, right there. I think that like we can close up shop, Danielle, and like
Yeah.
say, all right, everybody took away golden nuggets, because, whether it's us, other people, people we love, we all know somebody that may have a sign or two. And so this is them and your ability to identify to be able to maybe help them out. So how do we do that? So after we identify, like, there's something here, what do we do next, Danielle? What does that look
You
like?
want to educate yourself. And I am not talking about, significant trauma research in the brain and those kind of things. I I felt like I just as a partner of someone just really needed it dumbed down. What does it feel like and what can I do about it? Right?
Yeah.
And so that's the first thing, is to be able to recognize those triggers, and you as a partner separating yourself from them,
Mm,
realizing that it's not about you, it's about what happened to them as kids coming out in these coping mechanisms. So when
okay.
you can get really good at identifying them in your partner, then you can respond in different ways and create new patterns instead of those destructive cycles that just keep going around and around. You can really create new patterns once you know that.
Right. So I take it this is where care could come in, right? So what are some of those tools to help create those new patterns?
Yeah, so the C in care, yeah, it's an acronym. It stands for comprehending childhood trauma. So understanding the triggers and why they're happening.
Mm,
Once you do that, then the A is accessing the support that you need. You as a partner will probably, you can't be everything, right? To your part, you can't be the counselor. You're not trauma educated. You can be a support, but you can't fix it. And so figuring out what this access to support is that you both need to heal is the next step. And that could be many different things. I want people to get creative, with what that support looks like, but you can't be everything. And then the R is the resilience building through self-care. When you are in survival mode in a relationship, you're
mm,
more reactive when you're not taking care of yourself. And I learned that the hard way. So having a way where you can be not at your wits end, so that you can actually implement the tools. And then the E, that's where the tools come in, establishing healthier patterns in your relationship. That's where some of those tools come in. But if you don't have the support, if you're not taking care of yourself, it's going to be really difficult to create those new patterns.
And taking care of yourself is hard for most people. Let's face it. Even if like your spouse doesn't have trauma, it's hard for us to take time to go de-stress somewhere, right? And to come back renewed, rejuvenated, and feel like we can keep moving forward without being burnt out. So
Mm-hmm.
that's a hard one for a lot of people.
It is, but I have a trick.
Yeah.
Not Women in these situations are not going to be able to take a week spa vacation. It's not going to be possible. That is unreasonable. And so what I recommend is just a top 5 list. Top 5 things you do every single day that take no more than 5 to 10 minutes that restore you. If you can do that every day, you will see much bigger dividends than when you take, a 3-hour spa day on Sunday. It's about making those steps a priority in your life, but making them reasonable, right? So take 2 minutes to breathe, get outside and walk around the block,
Mhm.
stretch, write down something you're grateful for.
I
Five
was
things done.
Love it. I was
Mm-hmm.
going to say, some of mine is in
Mm-hmm.
my, and I've talked, a lot of people who listen know I'm big on morning routines and evening routines, right?
Yes.
So my morning routines, I love taking time to have a cup of coffee. Like after I drop off Dad from school, I enjoy my cup of coffee. I do my daily devotion for the day, right? So there's like 10 minutes
Yeah.
right there, right? Um, if I get a chance, it's taking a bath and just like chilling out, like grab a glass of wine, take a bath, right? Going for a walk around the block.
Yeah.
Day. Stretching. I love like in between coaching calls. I love to stretch in between, right? So
Yeah.
these things that you're talking about, it don't have to be big.
No.
Spend money, go spa, like go. You don't have to go to 5 star spa resorts or beach vacations. Like what can we do that we love? Um,
Listen to music.
Listen to music.
Go
Absolutely.
dance around. Sing out, bolt out a song. Just anything.
Oh, okay. So I have a funny story about singing. So right before I start making my dials and connecting with my referrals and stuff, um, some of my colleagues know that I will dance to either Joan Jett, I Love Rock and Roll before I start making my calls, or I'll headbang and dance around to like Metallica's Enter Sandman, or
Oh,
some like 90s grunge just for the fun of it, right? You like shake it up, laugh at yourself because as business professionals, a lot of us in the
yeah.
business world, we take ourselves way too serious.
I know. Yes,
We're
absolutely.
all not that cool to take ourselves too serious, but yet we're taking ourselves way too serious. So let's have fun. So I love
Yeah.
that. Good suggestions.
Yes.
Good suggestions.
Yes.
So my social worker brain's thinking here, and it's going to the question of like, why does having, maybe people haven't really correlated this, but why does having a traumatic childhood and how does it affect our romantic relationships with our partners and significant others? Because it does. But
It
why does,
does.
right?
Yeah. And again, it is just truly the way that they learned to cope.
Mm.
For their childhood. They were the coping mechanisms that were developed to survive and to make it through their relationship. And guess what? The average age that a man that they disclose, especially sexual abuse, is 52 years of age. And there are many reasons why that disclosure is so late. But what that just tells you is that there's a lot of men out there, right, that have had these coping mechanisms for 52 years work for them, right? But their relationships are imploding or, they're not successful in relationships. And that's really the reason why. And why it is difficult. It's not impossible, but
Mhm.
it does require some good work to create those new mechanisms that work better in relationships.
So, how can you take your painful life experiences? So, maybe there's some guys listening to this and they've had these traumatic experiences, or maybe they haven't thought about them in a very long time, and we're pulling up some big trigger memories here, and making people squirm a little bit in their seats. But how do we take your pain, people's painful life experiences, and then how do we turn them into your passion to be able to help others?
I just got to this point where I felt like I was put in this position, right? I got married not knowing it. And I remember several times along the way being like, I didn't sign up for this. I don't know if I have enough to get through this. But I just felt like I had been put in this situation for my husband and I to make it through, for him to be this hero who did all the work, who
Mm.
can prove that it's possible, that trusted in me enough to do that deep healing, that we should be an inspiration and see if we can help even one other couple through this situation and essentially be that community, create that community that I couldn't find.
Speaking of trying to find that community you can find, are there communities now? Where can people go for support? Are there, how do people look for those kind of communities and support?
Yeah, so really look up my website. Uh,
Hey,
that's,
give us a plug. So, what's
yeah,
your website?
www.daniellesebastian.com. It's
Okay.
very easy. So just my name.com. To be honest, I have not been successful in finding other communities out there, particularly for women supporters of male husbands.
Okay. So, in your community, what do you guys do to offer some support? Do you, kind of share with us a little bit about that piece of it?
Yeah, so we have a group, a community group, where of wives and partners. So we do have some men of women partners. I think that the way that the triggers play out between, men and women are different, but the tools that you can use, I think, are very, very similar. That the tools work no matter, that
Mm.
situation. So we have a community, and we, have Q&As and just, a discussion board where we talk. And then I also have several resources on my website to get you started with some of these tools. And we also have group programs as well, that more one-on-one coaching to help wives.
Awesome. I love that. So I know we kind of talked about this a little bit. Um, and we kind of talked about, like the four signs. Are there other things that we need to be hearing, looking for, you know, if we find a friend, or maybe we have a friend who we think, how do we start those conversations? Like, because it's an awkward conversation. Let's just face it. Like, if we see a
Mm-hmm.
sign, like, how do we start this conversation? Like, how do we bring it up? Like, hey, are you, have you had, we don't just ask you, have you had a traumatic experience, right? Like, you don't, but Danielle, how do we have these conversations? How do we start?
with with someone who you think may have had a traumatic past.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not easy, but I think that they will not be able to come forth and disclose until they're ready.
Okay.
But the reason that men disclose so much later in life is because several things need to be met before they feel comfortable, and sometimes even the memories can come to the surface. Honestly, several things need to be met, and that is, number one, they need to be far enough from the abuse, meaning either distance, or they've separated themselves from that relationship, whatever it may be. There has to be distance away from the abusing partners to the point where they feel safe. There is also, they need to find somebody who they feel that they can trust enough, that won't leave them or hurt them if they tell. And that's where the partner comes in. That's really what our role is in having this conversation, is just being able to be that safe place where they know if they come to you, you're going to, number one, believe, you're not going to discount, and that no matter what, you can handle the truth. You can handle what their past. They need to know that. And so the conversation that I recommend that people have is, hey, you know what? If something happened to you, I just want you to know, you can tell me. I'm here for you. So just keeping that open without saying, hey, I think something happened to you. Um,
Love that. Good advice.
mhm.
Because a lot of times
Mhm.
we just don't know, how do we even bring this up, right?
Yeah.
Or, maybe they've mentioned something in
Mhm.
a situation and they don't remember they brought something up, but you caught the clue, right?
Yep.
So,
Mhm. And so just, asking for the questions, but if they're not ready, okay, that's fine, but I am here if you are ready, if you do want to talk about anything.
no, that's awesome. Such great advice. I love.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, so what are your, like, with what you're doing and such the good work that you're doing and trying to fill a big gap? I feel like, there's this Hoover Dam, right? Like a Niagara Falls size issue, but you're just like the little barrel, trying to plug in this big hole. So I admire all this work that you are doing, trying to fill the gap, trying to fill the
Mhm.
space, um, and trying to create a better community. And so my hope is somebody that is listening can reach out to you and help you keep, growing, the stop, for some of this, and creating awareness and creating a bigger community. And so can people find, like, your book on Amazon? Where can people find your book?
Yeah, book is on Amazon.
Okay.
Resilient Wives. There's a whole rest of the title as you read earlier, but Resilient Wives, or you can look up my name, Danielle Sebastian, and it is right there.
I
So
love it.
that's number one. The other thing is, if you, talking about having the conversation, if you know someone who you're like, I wonder if this could be something that is going on in their relationship, I have a free guide, and it's called Spotting the Signs. and it gives you those signs that I was talking about. So it's a really good shareable guide for people if they might think that something is going on. And then it gives you a few of those tools, that you can use to identify the triggers, and how maybe you can diffuse some of them. So I'd love for people to know that. That's on my website, so DanielleSebastian.com. There's a free resource, and you can share that. As well as I offer a free coaching call. So if there is a wife out there that's like, this is really resonating with me, I offer a free coaching call for everyone, and that also is on my website.
That is wonderful. So you've taken this challenge, right? Wrote a book, and now we're starting this business, your coaching business and helping others. So what is the number one business tip you tell everybody on how to grow or even how to start their business? What's your advice?
Consistency, persistence, for sure. I started from, having a pharmacist background, had no idea what I was doing. And I just every day, right? Just little baby steps, persistence, consistency was my biggest things to where I'm, on your podcast, and so that is what I recommend. Just baby steps. Don't get too big, right? As you mentioned, I mean, the gap is so huge, right? But I just need to concentrate on reaching just those one or two people, right? To make the difference and go from there. So breaking it down into smaller steps.
I love that. So in this space that you're in, if people want to get involved or they're like, you know what, I would love to join partners, or I would, because I've got friends who are still working in, the domestic violence, space. There's a lot of different areas where I have seen personally and working through, family counseling and through my social work background where there had been childhood trauma, right?
Yeah.
Like, and so I think everybody take resource of Danielle because we all know somebody, and just being a resource for people, I think is huge too.
Absolutely.
So where do you see kind of what do you want to accomplish? Like in the next 3 to 5 years, where would you love to see, I'm not necessarily in industry, but how would you like to see your business grow to serve more people?
Yes, I would love, I'm starting with one-on-one coaching, and then I'm starting group coaching because I want to be able to help more
Yeah.
people. That's the idea. I want to get this word out. So speaking, telling my story, inspiring others, to all, work together and stop the silence associated, with this. I think there's a lot of pressure on wives to stay isolated because this is often a big secret, but that really isn't helping anyone. And there are ways to get support without, you know, getting in the way of what your husband needs from privacy. So there are ways to do that. So I want to speak. I want to get out there. I want to do retreats for wives. Oh, that is my dream, to be able to get these wives together and just a crash course, on how you can do those 4 steps that we talked about, the care process, just a deep dive into that where we're all supporting each other.
What a great long-term vision. So what do you do? What's your self-care? How do you relax? Like when you have time off and it's your time for self-care, what are some of the things that you love to do?
I am a Montana girl. So I live in Montana and we love the outdoors. So that is what I do in my spare time. Rain, shine, snow, I get outside. So running, trail running, tennis, paddle boarding in the snow. I don't downhill ski. I don't love that, but I cross country ski.
Okay.
So,
Okay. And then I know you mentioned that you're a big reader as well.
yes, yes. I've always used reading as a way. That's my coping mechanism, and that's the way that I relax and rejuvenate is reading. So
Is there a book that you've been reading that you're just telling everybody you got to go read this book? Is there something that you've read recently?
The Women. I just finished that one.
Okay.
It's on nurses that served in Vietnam. Very good.
Oh,
Very
wow.
good. Yes.
That's,
Life changing.
I was going to say that sounds impactful.
Yeah. That's one of the best books I've read in a while. Yeah.
Okay. I may have
So
to,
go
is
check
it
it
on,
out.
all right. Is it on Audible by
Yep.
any?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Okay. I'll have to throw that
Gotta
on
love
my
it.
list then.
Yes.
I love it. So, what are some of the challenges that you are facing right now in growing your business?
I think it's knowing where to focus.
Okay.
There's so many ways to grow, right? And I'm like, gosh, I want to do it all, but I can't. And,
Okay.
and so that has been my biggest thing is where am I going to focus that would make the biggest impact?
Mm.
So what is it, social? Is it speaking? Is it doing the podcast? What is getting the most value and where am I reaching the most people?
Okay. I was going to say, how do you approach your decision making and problem solving, skills in your business?
I am getting better at looking at the data, right? So you don't just want to throw stuff out there. You want to see if it's making the impact and if what numbers and reach you're getting. So that was one of the biggest things I've learned in the last year is how I can put those things out there and then look at the analytics and the research to determine if that all that time and effort I put into it was worth it or if I should be putting it somewhere else.
And you mentioned a good point there. A lot of people, even if you don't own a business, but maybe you're just a salesperson or somebody working for a company, always be looking at the numbers, looking at the data. Like that tells you how to do your job more effectively, efficiently. And people are like, well, I'm not a numbers person. You kind of need to be to do your job well. It doesn't matter what industry or what
Yeah,
position.
and it doesn't have to get crazy analytics, right? Just do the
Oh,
top 5 that you have access to immediately. There's just usually quite a few pieces out there that you can get an idea. It doesn't have to be crazy research, spending hours on the weekend trying to figure out your analytics. No, don't do that. Just
no,
get those top 5 recommendations and go from there.
no, I love that. And then how do you stay motivated during tough times in your business? How do you stay motivated?
I go to my stories. I go to the stories
Mm.
of the wives. I think about them, and I, like try and put something out in social so that I can get that feedback that yeah, this is what I need to be doing. So it's the stories, it's the women, and it's the men. You know, the men, and I also really want to start working with little boys, trauma victims, eventually as well. That's why.
Such good work. Such good work, my friend. So the last question I always ask everybody, kind of leave everybody on a fun note here is what is the funniest story you can share with us about you growing up? I would love for you to share or something interesting. Take your pick.
There were a lot of things that came to mind, but I would say one of the funniest moments that I had in my childhood that also had the biggest impact.
Yeah.
I think I was about 7 years old, and we had a big park right outside of our house, and it had the old school playground equipment, right, where the swing set was on a block of concrete. All of the equipment was on a block of concrete.
I remember
So
those. I mean, that's just
unsafe.
those are just dangerous playgrounds. Let's just face it,
It
they're dangerous
we were hurt all the time, right?
all the
But
time.
I remember this one day, I went out with a bunch of neighbor kids and we were on the teeter totter. And I must have fallen off or something, but the kid on the other end of the teeter totter threw the teeter totter down, and that thing hit me in the mouth and knocked my 2 front teeth right out of my head. And I had an overbite, okay? And
Okay.
so miraculously, that's all it did. Was it just took the 2 front teeth right out, didn't touch the nose, didn't touch the mouth, nothing. And so I was bleeding profusely, running home, and my parents were like, "What happened?" And I just was crying, and all it was these two front teeth that just got taken out right out of my head. It was the weirdest thing.
So were they your permanent teeth or baby teeth?
Baby, but not ready. I was like 7. So it took me, I did not have two front teeth every Christmas. You know, the song,
Yes.
All I Want for Christmas is My Two Front Teeth. I
And,
think it was 3 years, 3 Christmases before those
oh my goodness. Okay, so
came back
it's
in.
crazy. My son is 5, he'll be 6 here, and he's already lost both of his front 2 teeth.
Really?
Yes.
Teeth are all over the board. Some use them so young, some it's, my son is still losing them. So we hang on to our teeth.
You do have their teeth. And I'm thinking here going, oh no, is something wrong with that because he's losing his so early?
No, it's all over the
Oh
board.
my gosh.
No, just so you know.
Oh,
But yeah, that was a life-changing, crazy moment.
that is like, so how many pictures does your mom have with you with no teeth for 3 years, my friend?
So many. And then I was embarrassed. So, for
Yeah,
years, I didn't smile showing my teeth. Yeah,
yeah,
it was a
yeah.
thing.
Oh,
But
well,
then these teeth came in, and everybody's like, well, they're beautiful now. I mean,
they're gorgeous. You're good now.
I was like, I earned these.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Oh, it's
Yeah.
so fun. Well, Danielle, I appreciate you so much for being on today because I hope everybody took away something valuable today, some golden nuggets. If you, your family, anybody you know who may have had some childhood trauma, please go to Danielle's website, um, DanielleSebastian.com. Check out her resources, reach out to her because she is correct. There's hardly anybody in this space. And so thank you for sharing your story, your husband's story, how you are doing such amazing work. And I am just blessed to know you and to be a part. And I can't wait just to keep seeing more and more of the good things that you're doing. So thank you so much for being on today.
Thank you so much for helping me get my story out.
Yes.
And we can do this together. And I really admire everything you're doing as well. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Well, everybody, this wraps up, and I mean another powerful episode with Talk with Coach. I hope you found today's insights valuable and actionable. Remember, growth is a journey, and every step forward counts. So, if you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast, and do it on my YouTube channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe as well. And hey, I would love to hear from you. Share your thoughts, comments, and topic suggestions by reaching out to us on social media. If you would like to schedule a one-on-one call with me to learn more about Southwestern Consulting's coaching program, geez, tongue twister, you guys, and our corporate training services, please click the link below and schedule a call with me. Until next time, keep striving for greatness, keep pushing your limits, and remember, your success story is waiting to be written. This is Becca Goldsberry signing off. Take care and make it a blessed day.